The penthouse elevator climbed 47 floors in complete silence, carrying Elena Harper toward a life she never wanted. Her reflection stared back from the polished steel doors, pale and hollow-eyed in the borrowed wedding dress that hung. Loose on her small frame, white fabric felt like a costume, a lie stitched in silk in desperation. When the doors whispered open, she stepped into a world of glass and marble that gleamed under crystal chandeliers. The San Francisco skyline stretched beyond floor-to-ceiling windows, city lights blurring through the evening fog like scattered diamonds. Everything here screamed wealth, power, control, and everything except the man waiting for her. Stood with his back turned, hands clasped behind his perfectly tailored suit. At 32, he commanded one of the most powerful tech empires in Silicon Valley, his name whispered in boardrooms and feared by competitors. The media called him ruthless, calculating, untouchable. But Elena saw something different in the rigid line of his shoulders, the way his fingers tapped against his thigh in an unconscious rhythm. He was nervous. "You should rest," he said without turning around, his voice clipped and professional. "There's a guest room prepared. You won't be disturbed." Elena set down her single suitcase. Everything she owned in the world reduced to one worn leather bag. "Is that what you think this is? It's a business arrangement where I disappear into a corner? Until you need me for photo ops?" Now he turned, those ice-blue eyes scanning her face with clinical precision. Smith Carter was handsome in the way expensive things were handsome, all sharp angles and perfect proportions. But there was something hollow behind his gaze, something that made her chest tighten despite her anger. "Isn't it?" he asked. "We both know why we're here. The scandal with the data breach needed a distraction. Marriage to an employee shows stability, commitment to the company family. You get financial security. I get positive headlines. Everyone wins." The words hit her like physical blows. Lena had known this marriage was transactional, but hearing it laid out so coldly made her stomach twist. She thought of her tiny apartment in Oakland, the stack of medical bills on her kitchen table, her younger brother's cancer treatments that had driven her to accept this devil's bargain. "You're right," she said quietly, moving toward the windows. Everyone wins. But her reflection showed the lie. Behind her, Smith's expression shifted, something flickering across his features too quickly to read. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Elena pressed her palm against the cool glass, looking down at the world she'd never belonged to. Below, people moved through their lives with purpose and direction, while she felt suspended in amber, beautiful, entrapped. Elena. Her name on his lips sounded different than she'd expected, softer somehow. "You don't have to pretend this is easy." She turned, surprised by the gentleness in his voice. For a moment, the corporate mask slipped, and she glimpsed something raw underneath. Pain, maybe, or loneliness that mirrored her own. "Neither do you," she said. They stood there in the glittering cage he'd built. Two strangers bound by necessity and secrets. While the city hummed below them like a living thing, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that despite all his power and control, Smith Carter was just as trapped as she was. And somewhere in the space between them, something dangerous began to stir. 3 days into their arrangement, Elena discovered Smith's secret. She'd been exploring the penthouse during his long hours at the office, mapping the boundaries of her beautiful prison. The living spaces were all steel and glass, cold as a museum. But when she found the hidden door behind his home office bookshelf, everything changed. The room beyond was smaller, warmer. Soft leather chairs faced a fireplace that looked actually used. Books lined the walls, real ones with worn spines and dog-eared pages. A guitar sat in the corner, its wood polished smooth by countless hands. And covering one entire wall were photographs. Not the sterile corporate headshots that decorated his office, but real moments. A young Smith laughing with an older man who shared his eyes, the same man teaching him to play guitar. Smith as a teenager, arms around a woman with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair. Progression told a story Elena hadn't expected. You weren't supposed to find this. She spun around to find Smith in the doorway, his suit jacket gone, sleeves rolled up. For the first time since she'd known him, he looked uncertain. "I'm sorry," she said, but didn't move away from the photographs. "I was just wandering around and the door was open. I saw the guitar and I wondered if you played. And then I saw these pictures and they're beautiful. Smith, you look happy in them." He stepped into the room, and she noticed how his shoulders relaxed slightly. "My grandfather," he said, nodding toward the photographs. "He raised me after my parents died. This was his room in his house in Marin. I had it recreated exactly." Elena studied his face, seeing the pain he tried to hide. "When did he pass? 5 years ago?" "He was the only family I had left." Smith moved to the guitar, running his fingers along the strings without pressing them. "He taught me that music was the language of the heart when words weren't enough." Something in his voice made her chest tight. "Play something." "I don't play anymore." "Why not?" He looked at her then, really looked, and she saw the moment. He decided to tell her the truth, "'Cause it reminds me of everything I lost. And I can't afford to feel that way and still run a company." Elena moved closer, drawn by the vulnerability in his admission. "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. It's practical." She reached out, her fingers brushing his where they rested on the guitar. The contact sent electricity through her skin, and she saw him feel it too. "You've built walls so high you can't even hear your own music anymore." Smith's breath caught. "Elena, don't." "Don't what? Don't see that you're human? Don't notice that you're lonely too?" She stepped closer, close enough to smell his cologne, mixed with something uniquely him. "I would admit that maybe we're both pretending this is just business when it's starting to feel like something else." The air between them crackled with tension. Smith's eyes darkened, his careful control wavering. "You don't understand what you're saying? Then explain it to me." He set the guitar aside and turned to face her fully. "I'm not a good man, Elena. I've destroyed companies, ruined careers, made decisions that hurt people. I did it all without hesitation because I learned early that caring too much makes you weak, makes you vulnerable. Do you think I care?" The question hung between them, like a challenge. Smith's composure cracked completely. "Don't you?" he whispered. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. She thought of her brother in his hospital bed, the stack of bills that had driven her here, the logical reasons she should keep her distance. But looking at Smith now, seeing past the corporate armor to the man beneath, logic didn't matter. "Yes," she admitted. "I do." The confession shattered something in his expression. He reached for her, his hands framing her face with surprising gentleness. "This is dangerous, I know. It will complicate everything. I know. I don't know how to be what you need." Elena smiled, the first real smile she'd given him since their wedding. "Then we'll figure it out together." When he kissed her, it wasn't the careful, controlled gesture she'd expected. It was desperate, hungry, 3 days of tension and longing poured into one perfect moment. She tasted coffee and mint, and something darker, something that made her pulse race. Outside the windows, San Francisco glittered in the fading light. But Elena was lost in the discovery that the man she'd married for convenience might be worth loving for real. The first betrayal came on a Tuesday morning, delivered with Elena's coffee and the San Francisco Chronicle. She was curled in Smith's reading chair, wearing his MIT sweatshirt that swallowed her small frame. When her phone buzzed with a text from her brother Marcus, her heart stopped as she read the words. "Elena, what the hell? Hospital just called. Someone paid off all my bills. Everything." He said it was anonymous, but came through Carter's Text Foundation. "Did you tell him?" The coffee cup slipped from her numb fingers, shattering against the marble floor in a spray of ceramic and liquid. She stared at the mess, her mind reeling. She hadn't told Smith about Marcus. She'd been careful, so careful to keep that part of her life separate. Footsteps echoed across the penthouse, and Smith appeared in the doorway, his expression shifting from concern to guilt the moment he saw her face. "You knew?" she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You knew about Marcus all along? No?" Tightened. "Elena, let me explain." "How long?" She stood slowly, his sweatshirt falling to her knees. "How long have you been watching me? Investigating me?" From the beginning, the admission came out flat, businesslike. "I don't marry strangers, Elena. I had you thoroughly vetted before I made the offer." The words hit her like physical blows. "Vetted. like a security risk. It's like someone I needed to understand. He stepped closer, but she backed away. Your brother's medical bills, your night shift at the company, the way you've been supporting him since you aged out of foster care. I know all of it. Elena's vision blurred with tears she refused to shed. You manipulated me. You knew exactly how desperate I was, exactly what buttons to push. I helped you. You used me. The words tore from her throat, raw and painful. You sat there and let me think I was making a choice when you'd already decided for me, when you'd already mapped out every weakness, every vulnerability. Smith's mask slipped, revealing something desperate underneath. It wasn't supposed to matter. It was just information. Elena, due diligence, and now. What is it now? He ran both hands through his hair, disheveling the perfect style. Now. It's complicated. Complicated. She laughed, but the sound held no humor. Is that what you call it, when your business arrangement develops inconvenient feelings? Don't twist this. Then tell me the truth. All of it. Elena crossed her arms, armor against the pain radiating through her chest. What else don't I know? What other surprises are waiting for me in your files? Smith's silence stretched too long, and she saw the answer in his guilty expression. There's more, she said, her voice going deadly quiet. He moved to his desk, pulling out a thick manila folder. Your parents. The car accident when you were 8. It wasn't random. Elena's legs gave out, and she sank back into the chair. What are you saying? The driver who hit them was drunk? He was also an employee of Hartman Industries, one of my biggest competitors at the time? Covered it up, paid off the police, destroyed the evidence? Smith's voice gentled. I've been building a case against them for years. Your parents deserve justice. The room spun around her. Elena pressed her hands to her temples, trying to process the information. You've known this whole time? You married? Me knowing that my parents' death was connected to your business? Yes. And you were planning to use it against Hartman? Yes. With or without my consent? Smith's hesitation was answer enough. Elena stood on shaking legs, grief and rage, warring in her chest. You're not my husband. You're not even my friend. You're just another powerful man who thinks people are chess pieces to be moved around your board. Elena, please. Smith stepped toward her, but she held up a hand to stop him. Don't. Don't you dare try to make this about protection or justice or any noble motivation. You saw a broken girl with a sick brother and dead parents. You thought, perfect. She'll be grateful enough to never question me. That's not true, isn't it? She grabbed her purse, her hands shaking. I need air. I need space. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not being manipulated by men who think they know what's best for me. Smith caught her arm as she passed. Where are you going? Lena looked down at his hand on her skin, then up at his face. For a moment she saw past the corporate mask to the loneliness and fear underneath. But it wasn't enough. Not anymore. Somewhere you can't follow, she said, pulling free. Somewhere your money and power and carefully orchestrated plans can't reach me. She walked out of the penthouse, leaving Smith standing alone among the shattered pieces of his beautiful, hollow world. As the elevator doors closed, Elena caught a glimpse of him through the glass, looking smaller and more lost than she'd ever seen him. But for the first time since their wedding, she was the one walking away. Elena found refuge in the last place Smith would think to look for her. The children's ward at San Francisco General, where Marcus was receiving treatment. The familiar antiseptic smell and soft beeping of monitors wrapped around her like a strange comfort as she sat beside her brother's bed watching him sleep. At 19, Marcus still looked impossibly young, his dark hair thin from chemotherapy, but his face peaceful in unconsciousness. The expensive machines surrounding him hummed quietly. State-of-the-art equipment that would have been impossible to afford just days ago. You're crying again. Marcus's voice was weak but teasing as his eyes fluttered open. Did rich boy do something stupid? Elena wiped her cheeks, not realizing tears had fallen. When are you not stupid? Most of the time, actually. It's one of my better qualities. He struggled to sit up and she helped him, her heart clenching at how frail he felt. Want to talk about it? He's been investigating me since before we met. He knows everything about us, about Mom and Dad, about your illness. He orchestrated the whole thing. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing. And you're surprised? Because I thought he was starting to care about me? Because I was starting to care about him? Marcus took her hand in his thin one. He paid for my treatment. All of it. Experimental therapy, the best doctors, everything. That's not the action of a man who sees you as a chess piece. Elena shook her head. You don't understand? He manipulated me. He used my desperation, my love for you, to get what he wanted. Did he, though? Marcus's eyes, so much like their father's, held a wisdom that seemed too old for his face. Did he see someone he wanted to help, and found a way to do it without making you feel like charity? The words hit her unexpectedly, and she pulled her hand away. Whose side are you on? Yours. Always yours. Marcus coughed, a sound that made Elena's chest tight with familiar fear. But maybe consider that powerful people do powerful things. In messy ways. Maybe his methods were wrong, but his intentions weren't. You're defending him. I'm suggesting that people are complicated. You've been taking care of me since I was 14, and you were 18. You sacrificed college, relationships, your own dreams. You think I don't know what that cost you? Elena's throat constricted. That's different, is it? You manipulated me too, in your way. You hid how much the bills were costing you. You worked 3 jobs and told me it was just one. You made decisions for both of us without asking what I wanted. Marcus's voice gentled. I'm not saying it was wrong. I'm saying love makes people do desperate, controlling things sometimes. The door opened, interrupting them. Elena expected a nurse, but instead Smith stepped into the room. He looked haggard. His perfect composure cracked at the edges. His eyes found hers immediately, relief and uncertainty warring in their depths. How did you find me? She asked. I know you. The simple statement carried weight. When you're scared, you come here. When you need to think, you sit with the people you love. Marcus watched this exchange with interest. You must be the husband. I'm Marcus. The inconvenient medical bills. Smith's attention shifted to her brother, and Elena saw something unexpected. In his expression, not pity or calculation, but genuine concern. How are you feeling? Like someone who just got a second chance at life, thanks to you. Marcus's tone was carefully neutral. The question is what you want in return. Nothing, Smith said quietly. I want nothing in return. Bullshit. Elena stood, anger flaring. Again, everything you do has a price, an angle, a benefit to your bottom line. Smith looked at her steadily. You're right. Everything I've done in business has been calculated. But this isn't business anymore, Elena, and I'm not very good at anything else. Then learn to be better. The challenge hung in the air between them. Marcus cleared his throat awkwardly. Maybe I should give you to some privacy. Stay, Elena said quickly. Whatever he has to say, he can say it in front of you. Smith nodded, accepting the condition. He moved closer, and Elena noticed the way his hands shook slightly, the exhaustion in his eyes. I've been alone for so long that I forgot how to let people in without controlling them first, he said. I've been betrayed by everyone who claimed to care about me. So I investigate. I manipulate. I make sure I hold all the cards before I risk anything real. That's not an excuse. No, it's not. It's an explanation. Smith's voice cracked slightly. I fell in love with you, Elena. Not the idea of you. Not the convenient wife you could be. You, the woman who sings in empty hallways and fights for her family and sees through all my walls. And it terrified me so much that I tried to turn it into something I could control. Elena's breath caught. The words she'd been longing to hear came wrapped in pain and regret. Love isn't supposed to be about control, she whispered.
I know.
That now. Smith reached into his jacket and pulled out a set of papers. Dissolution of marriage. I've already signed them. You're free, Elena. No conditions, no strings. Your brother's medical care will continue regardless. I'll make sure of it. Elena stared at the papers, her heart hammering. Freedom, the thing she'd thought she wanted most. But looking at Smith now, seeing the raw vulnerability in his face, she realized freedom might be just another cage if it meant losing the person she'd started to love. Marcus squeezed her hand. What do you want, Elle? Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want? The question hung in the antiseptic air, while machines beeped their steady rhythms, and Elena faced the most important choice of her life. Elena stared at the divorce papers until the words blurred together, her heart torn between self-preservation and something far more dangerous. The hospital room felt too small suddenly, filled with the weight of decisions that would reshape everything. "I want," she began, then stopped, the words catching in her throat. She looked at Smith, really looked at him, and saw past the expensive suit and corporate armor to the man who'd learned to love through control because he'd never learned to love any other way. "I want you to tear up those papers," she said finally. Smith's eyes widened, hope flickering in their depths. "Elena, but not because I'm weak or desperate or grateful for what you've done for Marcus." She stood, moving closer to him. "I want you to tear them up because I'm choosing you. Not the marriage contract, not the financial security, not the comfortable cage you built. I'm choosing the man who plays guitar in secret and keeps his grandfather's room exactly as it was and falls apart when he thinks he might lose something real." Smith's hands trembled as he took the papers. "Are you sure? I'm sure that I love you. I'm sure that you love me, even if you're terrible at showing it. And I'm sure that if we're going to make this work, everything changes starting now. Everything." Elena reached up, framing his face with her hands. "God, no more investigations, no more manipulation. God, no more making decisions for me because you think you know what's best. We're partners, Smith, equal partners, or we're nothing. I don't know how to do that." "Then learn. We'll learn together." She smiled, and for the first time in days, it felt real. "Start by trusting me enough to be honest about what you're feeling." Smith took a shaky breath. "I'm terrified. Never wanted anything as much as I want this to work, and I have no idea how to love someone without trying to control them. I'm scared I'll hurt you again. You probably will. I'll probably hurt you too. That's what real relationships are. Messy and complicated and worth fighting for." Smith tore the papers in half, then in half again, letting the pieces fall to the floor like snow. "What do we do now? Now we go home. You play guitar for me? I cook something that isn't from a 5-star restaurant. We talk about normal things. Like what we want for breakfast and whether we should get a dog and how to make this penthouse feel less like a museum and more like a home." Marcus cleared his throat from the bed. "This is very touching, but could you maybe kiss him now? The romantic tension is killing me, and I'm already dying of cancer." Elena laughed despite herself, the sound bright in the sterile room. Smith grinned, the first real smile she'd seen from him since they'd met. "Your brother has excellent timing," he said. "It's the worst timing," Elena corrected, but she was already moving into Smith's arms. When he kissed her this time, it was different. Not desperate or hungry or driven by fear of loss. It was a promise, a beginning, a choice they were both making with eyes wide open. 6 months later, Elena stood in the same hospital room watching Marcus pack his belongings into a duffel bag. The cancer was in remission, his strength returning daily, and he'd been accepted to UC Berkeley with a full scholarship Smith had quietly arranged through his foundation. "You sure you're ready for this?" Elena asked, helping him fold his clothes. "Are you kidding? I've been in hospitals for 2 years. I'm ready to be a normal college student who stays up too late and eats terrible food and fails at least one class spectacularly." Elena smiled, her heart full. Through the window she could see Smith waiting in the parking lot, leaning against his car with a guitar case at his feet. He'd been taking lessons again, slowly remembering how to let music fill the empty spaces. In his chest, "He's good for you," Marcus said, following her gaze. Different than he was, more human, we're good for each other. Elena zipped up the duffel bag. "Ready?" As they walked out of the hospital together, Elena felt the weight of the past year settling into something like peace. The penthouse was still beautiful, still luxurious. But now it held laughter and music and the comfortable chaos of a life shared rather than controlled. Smith looked up as they approached, his face lighting up in a way that still made her pulse. "Skip, how's it feel to be a free man?" he asked Marcus. "Inexpensive," Marcus grinned, "but worth it." Smith laughed, opening the car door for Elena, as she settled into the passenger seat. She caught sight of herself in the side mirror. She looked different now, stronger somehow, like someone who'd learned the difference between being caged and being cherished. "Home?" Smith asked, starting the engine. Lena reached over and took his hand, feeling the calluses from guitar strings and the solid warmth of his skin. Home. As they drove through the San Francisco streets, Elena thought about cages and choices, about the difference between love and control, about the courage it took to tear up the safe plans and build something real instead. She squeezed Smith's hand tighter and watched the city blur past, knowing that sometimes the best prisons were the ones you chose to leave, and sometimes the greatest freedom came from choosing to stay. The end. Like this video if the story touched your heart, subscribe for more emotional tales, and share with someone who believes in the power of true love. And let us know in the comments. We love connecting with our global community of romance lovers.